John Turner, and I'm here in the garden at Goldsmiths, having just been into an exhibition in a corridor. Photographs on both sides of the corridor, some of them by a friend of mine, Chris Schwartz, and they're of what is called the Battle for Lewisham, although I have to say at the time we called it the Battle of Clifton Rise, but it's called the Battle of Lewisham, and it's about the same thing. And it's about events around, I suppose, the march by the National Front through the streets of Lewisham. Apparently the intention of the marchers on that day was to march through Lewisham to Catford and hold a meeting there. Because of the strength of a counter-demonstration by local people, they couldn't get further than, and this is with police protection, further than the clock tower in Lewisham, from which point they were bussed out, marched up to Blackheath and bussed out back to Waterloo, because they'd come from all over the country. And so it brought back many memories of that day, the wonderful photographs of the events of the day. The first, of course, was that the day was not just the afternoon. It was as well a meeting on Deptford Town Hall, addressed by the Bishop of Southwark and the Mayor of Lewisham, which was basically about celebrating the multiracial community. That was part of the day too. And also it was sort of a culmination in a way of work that we had been doing at the Albany Empire. I came from a group called the Combination Theatre Company, and we had been putting on shows about local issues in the area for the previous 5 years, and had done 3 shows which were about the dangers and illusions of racist attitudes. One, Heroes, based on an article by George Orwell about the heroes of boys' comics, whereby the baddie was always somebody with a darker skin who spoke with a foreign accent. Next one was called Kentucky Moon, about a country singer in the East End who is led astray on the back of his popularity to become an icon of the right wing. And the third was Restless Natives, which again exposed all these shows were funny as well, and musical as well. They weren't dry, they weren't didactic. We were a community theatre company, we're there to entertain, but all the shows had ideas in them. So the third one. I also, at the same time, had started up during the Rock Against Racism concerts at the Albany, a bridging band, a little trio that went after the punk band and before the reggae band, or after the reggae band and before the punk band, in the middle there, a little trio to just entertain the people between the bands while the engineers, did all the replugging that engineers have to do. And my band was called Rubber Johnny, and again the songs were written for and about the local community. One was about racism, one was about unemployment. We only had about 3 when we started, but we became very popular, and were then offered a residency in the Deptford Arms. We had to add bass and drums for that, and then that was followed by a residency in the Royal Albert. And continuing, that's the subject of our songs was the incidents and characters of the streets and areas around here, Brockley, New Cross, Deptford and Lewisham as a whole, which is the subject material of the blues, and we were a rhythm and blues band. So, we're just continuing on a tradition that is as old as the blues. These were the blues of Lewisham. And so all of these memories were flooding back as I walked down this corridor, and I was thinking, in a way, the shame of the exhibition, I think it's a very good exhibition, but of all exhibitions really, is we can understand it who lived through it, having been involved in the area for a long time before, in very many different ways. And to us, it's part of the story of a community, and the story goes on after that day. If you walk down Deptford High Street today on a Saturday or a Friday, and you see all the different stalls there, you'll see Asian food stalls, Afro-Caribbean food stalls. You'll see all the faces of multiracial Deptford down there shopping. And that's where we are now. This was one day in our history, and you would be wrong to think that tells the story of our community. It doesn't. That happened on one day. There was a precedent to it, which was actually that the reason why the National Front came in the first place is that there was a rumour in the area that Drake Ward in Deptford might possibly turn vote National Front in the forthcoming council elections. And that is the reason why the National Front came, but that is also the stimulus that created something called the All Lewisham Campaign Against Racism and Fascism, Al-Karaf, which involved, which was about celebrating the multiracial community. Church groups, trades union groups, higher education, us, the community workers, myself, community arts worker, or community theatre worker, a huge conglomeration of groups all across the borough that were basically organising festivals called the All Together Now Festival. The shows that we were doing, everybody in their different ways was working towards this promotion of a multiracial community, of our burgeoning multiracial community. And so all these ideas come up, and maybe to me, you can't understand those photographs without thinking of all the experiences and all the work and the stuff that's gone on. And it's good, I suppose, it takes those photographs to make you reflect on that, and also think forward from there to Deptford High Street Market.